Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you game 1 in a best of 3 between YueJin and Tarsh, and this is the third Asia Pacific final, so should really be a good one. Tarsh has come through strong in the lower brackets, definitely improved all the way, and YueJin of course has been king in the upper bracket, obviously a very good player. Now this map today is Mont Ormel, and on the allied side YueJin's bringing out the 2nd Infantry, and on the Axis side Tarsh is using the 91st Luftlandr. I think it's very interesting that both players have opted for infantry divisions once again. We saw that in the last game with Tarsh versus Corbo, and it definitely inspired some interesting gameplay. This time around, I think it kind of makes sense for YueJin to use the 2nd Infantry. They are a very versatile infantry division, and they have like armor in pretty much all phases that they can use to accompany their infantry. So things like the M4DDs, and they also have the M7DDs. On the side of Tarsh, he had success previously with the 91st Luftlandr against Corbo, so it makes sense that he brings that out again, probably feeling very comfortable and very confident on the division. So we'll have to see if he can use the Tarsh 42 ersatz combination to make lots of ground, and also the IG-18s. However, both of those units really aren't as effective against the 2nd Infantry, because the 2nd Infantry has the AT guns. I think they can bring in an M5 gun in Phase A, so that could be quite awkward. Also, there is the M4DDs, of course, which directly counter things like IG-18s. IG-18s just can't do anything against an M4. Also, Pak-38s on the side of Tarsh, those things kind of struggle to kill M4s at range. So, yeah, there is a lot more different in this game than there was in the previous game when he was up against the 101st Airborne. So, talking about the map in general, we tend to see the infantry engagements occur in the middle. That's where the close range engagements will occur. The open range engagements will normally occur on this bottom side. It really depends on whether or not YueJin can get his foot in the door down here and capture some of these buildings. On the side of Tarsh, it's his job to use the open range down here to get his Tarsh 42 and push into these buildings with his ersatz, because that would give him an advantage early on. On the top side, it's more even. You can get both players into these buildings early on, and that will cause some contention. But let's jump over to these units going down. So I expect quite a lot of Ersatztruppen. Tarsh was making liberal use of those in the previous game. So we've got 3 units up here, make that 5 units of Ersatz with an AT gun. Further down, it's going to be 2 units of Ersatztruppen with a couple of recon. He used Fallschirm Spear through previously, so I expect that'll be the same. He's got the Fallschirmführer in there, and he's got a mortar to follow up. Interesting choice. For the bottom side, it's going to be 3 units of Ersatz. It looks like accompanied by an IG-18. Then he's got some Fallschirmjägers down here, 2 more Ersatz, Speertrupp, and a Pak-38. Actually, no, that's a Pak-35 or 36. He's got 2 of those going down to the bottom side. Okay, on the side of YueJin, it's going to be a combination of Ranger Assaults. He's got the Ranger Marauders in there, he's got a Ranger Mortar, and also the Ranger Leader, accompanied by some rifles. There's some Ranger Supports heading down to the bottom side, or sort of mid section of the hill there. On the very bottom, he's got the Marauders, Ranger Mortar, he's got another unit of Ranger Supports, and a Ranger Leader with some rifles. And rifles to the top side with a Ranger Marauder. Now this is a bit dangerous, not putting like a rifle squad on the top side. It looks like he's got an unknown position that's going to take him to this building, but whether or not he's going to be able to occupy that before Tarsh does is quite ambitious. He'd be more likely to grab these buildings, which is generally how it goes on that top side. Each player tends to take one section. So, +1 in favour of YueJin early on. YueJin did manage to secure this bottom side. It is honestly a lot easier for YueJin to get here first, because he has a direct road that goes into this section of the map, whereas Tarsh does not. He can only go up the mid here, and this leaves him quite exposed if he wants to push into this. However, if you unload some troops here like ersatz, and then have a Sturm 42 sort of follow them through the tree line, you can definitely push onto these areas quite effectively. But it looks like we've just had sort of a generic start here where Tarsh just takes the top side and YueJin secures the bottom. So ersatz making quite a lot of ground at the moment, but not having a rifle squad here at least is definitely opening this huge salient for Tarsh early on. Infantry engagement has started to occur in the centre. Ranger Assault's going to easily clean up Ersatztruppen, so that's what we can see happening right now. Fallschirmpanzer Abwehr not really going to stand much of a chance either, however will do a lot more damage in the process. Wow, the Fallschirmpanzer Abwehr there, actually managing to kill off the Ranger Assault squad. That's quite impressive. But Ranger Marauders going to be saving the day with those Ranger Assaults on the top side, and wow, Tarsh has managed to actually trade relatively evenly here in terms of his squads. His Ersatz still haven't surrendered, and his Fallschirmpanzer Abwehrs really did a lot of damage. Now, I knew those squads were good, but maybe not quite that good. I think honestly it could have been due to the fact that YueJin was running his troops, which generally makes them less accurate. But it's really going to be up to VulcanHDGaming here to finish up the rest of these squads, the Ranger Marauders there and the Ranger Assaults. We'll have to see if he can. Go on, Oleg, you show what you're made of. There you go. Okay, didn't even take a single loss. So very nice indeed. Ranger Sport's going to be pinning down ersatz in the open. Exactly what they're great for. That sort of range engagement there. With the 3 M1 Garands and the 2 30 cals, they can put down 10 HE at that range, and you can see that's really affecting Tarsh's use of those ersatz. In the mid though, YueJin getting an advantage early on, but with the mortar now coming in from this 50mm, going to make things difficult to continue the advance, and of course Tarsh is going to be bringing up some reinforcements. Now, rifles have finally arrived on this top side. They will be able to clean up ersatz quite nicely, so I reckon this will be relatively easy for YueJin to push back. It's quite simply ersatz all across the board. These ones need to get into a building though. It's a bit lazy keeping them out in the open there. Looks like the Ranger Mortar's going for the counter battery. Both of these mortars actually only have short range. So the 50mm mortar has 700m range, the 60mm has 900m range. That does mean that YueJin can counter battery Tarsh's mortar without him being able to fire back. But whether or not YueJin does so remains to be seen. He looks like he did give it a little bit of a try, but otherwise, so far, nope. 60mm mortar finding shots onto this Pak 36, probably revealed by the Ranger Marauders down here. Ersatz though coming into this bottom side though with the Sturm 42. Look at that. Like he read my mind. But that's kind of like a staple push for the 91st Luftlandde. He's just going to hope that an M4DD doesn't really show up down there, otherwise it could make things difficult. So new Ranger Assault has arrived. They're going to start to pin down and sort of use their ammunition on the ersatz. It's actually not a very good thing for the Ranger Assaults to do. They want to save that for probably something a bit more substantial, like a Fallschirmjäger squad or something, or even VulcanHDGaming here, because now those guys don't have any ammunition left on the flamethrower, and that's really, really bad. Looks like the rifles there are able to deal with the Fallschirmpanzer Abwehr. There is a command arriving just in time to stop these rifles from surrendering, so that's nice. And on this top side, wow, these rifles are going to get surrendered. Surely. Are they in range? I'm not sure if they're in range to be surrendered. Maybe if Tarsh moved forwards a little bit up there, then he'd be okay, but the T-30 definitely rushing to the rescue. As I'm sure YueJin did not anticipate that happening. So, ersatz are of course moving up here now. Sturm 42 will be joining them soon, but with the Ranger Sport in the building there, it is going to do a lot of damage. Ranger Marauders at close range are going to get hit by the Sturm 42. Boom, they're dead. And now it's just a matter of the Sturm 42 helping pin down the Ranger support so the ersatz can keep moving forwards. The T-30 has managed to pin the last Ersatztruppen up here. One rifleman remains alive. Lucky guy. Ranger support and rifles have moved in to push out these ersatz. So in some places the ersatz holding quite well, like in the mid here, but elsewhere in the open it really looks like YueJin's taking advantage of those ersatz being so weak at the moment. The great thing about ersatz close up is they can still put down 5 HE even though they're 10 points apiece. So if you have a lot of them in the same place, they can still do a lot of damage. And that's really something that I think a lot of players underestimate when going up against the ersatz trooper at close range. But I like the addition of the VulcanHDGaming on the top side. That's really going to help him control things up there. But now we have the M4DD arriving, and that's going to make things very difficult indeed, especially where Tarsh is relying on these Pak 36s across the board. So he's got 2 Pak 36s on the bottom side, he's got 2 Pak 36s on the top side. Neither of those, like none of those AT guns can do anything against his M4DD. I think even in the side armor. It's got 4 side armor, so it's even going to struggle to do that. So Ranger support really doing a good job right now of keeping these ersatz back. He's moved them back a building, so they're not in line of sight of the Tarsh 42. The Tarsh 42 could find a line of sight. He's just got to, attack move in the right direction. Tarsh identifying that there. The other good thing about this Tarsh 42 is it can take out this T30 that YueJin's chosen to bring down there. So we'll have to wait and see if he can make that happen. VulcanHDGers have been pushed back, no surprise, in the face of an M4 and a T30, but it's really up to this Pak 38 to stay on that return fire, maybe find a shot into this T30 would be very nice at close range, as that's just about holding the line on the top side. Further down, getting crushed still by the Ranger supports. Now Tarsh there, I think his Pak 36 was revealed by the Ranger Marauders, so not really much he could do about that. Ideally was going to wait, I think, until he could fire at the T30. But not going to happen this time around. There is a Pak 36. I'm not quite sure where that's going. Well, apparently it's going to get itself killed. Keeping it in that tree line would have been a lot better, because now he's pretty much just lost the Pak 36 for free. Tarsh 42 has arrived. Not entirely sure if that's the best bet against what he's up against. I'd prefer to see something like a Pak 40, and I believe the 91st Luftlander can get a Pak 40 in Phase A, but at the moment, it looks like Tarsh is really making a lot of ground on this bottom side. He's managed to break through down here. He's got the VulcanHDGers accompanied by the ersatz trooper, and going to be coming across that Ranger mortar soon. Ranger supports at close range really aren't going to be able to do the job, so Tarsh could really take advantage of that. And he's used this Tarsh 42 to, of course, take out the Ranger supports on the bottom side and get these ersatz forwards. The ersatz are left on 1 health. Which isn't ideal, but it looks like YueJin's now investing in his 1 M5 gun in Phase A to try and take care of this Tarsh 42. That could obviously end up quite bad, in the sense that the Tarsh 42 might just kill it, but that we'll have to wait and see. So AT gun arrived down there. Meanwhile in the mid, Ranger mortars trying to hold the line. These Ranger assaults really aren't in a very good position, in the sense that they need the range of 100 meter to do a lot of damage, but in this case, if there was a VulcanHDGer here, it would absolutely just annihilate them. So M5 gun going to be firing away at the Tarsh 42. Has the Tarsh 42 not fired back yet? That is a big mistake there from Tarsh, allowing that M5 gun to fire without being fired back upon is really bad, but the ersatz really need to get close now. Really needs to try and pin that M5 gun, because otherwise that's a very dead Tarsh 42. That M5 gun has a decent range. Tarsh 42 could maybe back itself out of line of sight. Looks like it has done. But it's only a matter of time until YueJin moves that back into line of sight once again. Oh, wow. Look at the way it's falling back. That is tragic for Tarsh. That is a very dead Tarsh 42, unless these ersatz do something about it. The thing is, these ersatz don't have any ammo left on their MP40s, so pinning those down quickly will be very hard indeed. But you would have seen them do it in time and maybe save the Tarsh 42, but this time around, not going to happen. Befehlpanzer III is arriving now on this bottom side, but without that Tarsh 42 there anymore, things are going to get difficult. Pak 36 dying on the top side has allowed these rifles to just push all the way through, and we now see the Ranger Marauders go down. VulcanHDGers holding strong on the other side of this tree line. Shift 42, still staying back. I think, honestly, Tarsh brought this into the wrong area of the map, but he's going to be bringing in some reinforcements here. He can sort of solidify this defense at these buildings and make it difficult for YueJin to continue to make ground. At the end of the day, it's only a +1 for YueJin, but the points are definitely slowly but surely adding up, and we're getting close to 500 points on the side of YueJin. So these ersatz really need to be careful not to be surrendered. Fallschirmjägers need to get into a decent position. It looks like more infantry coming in, but not going to be able to stop this M4 just rolling through. Look at that. YueJin getting very aggressive there, but Tarsh has managed to find himself a salient with these ersatz, and that's pretty impressive. He's going to end up surrounding these guys, and this M4 has put itself in an extremely bad position. With both the IG and the Pak-36 firing at it, it's only a matter of time until that surrenders. Yep, it's gone. Wow. That was one way to lose an M4DD. Okay, Fallschirmjägers have arrived. They're going to help take on these Ranger supports at that range. The Fallschirmjägers, they lack a bit of HE compared to the Ranger supports. But the Ranger supports here, as you can see, have run out of ammunition, so it's not really going to matter. Pioneers are being hit in the open here by the M4DD. This T30 M4 combo has actually worked out very, very well so far. Ersatz have been cleaned up in the mid, but with Pioneers arriving, it's going to be extremely hard for YueJin to push through there. And now we see a +1 for Tarsh with his really nice push here with these ersatz. If he can find surround onto all of the topside units, he could really get some surrenders going. We now see Armada 2 has been brought in. That's going to be starting to hit this M4DD from range. Actually manages to get the weapon jam. Really, really successful hit there. And I believe that would probably be a Pak-40 on the way. I would hope it is. Yes, it is. And that will hopefully deal with the T30. Now the T30, as good as it is with a 9 HE, doesn't have 1,200 meter range. So the Pak-40 can really take advantage of that. M5 gun going to be finding a shot into this Panzer III. I feel like a bit of a mistake there by Tarsh. He knows that M5's gun's there, and now he's also being hit by the M4A1. So forced to fall back. M5 gun once again has an easy kill. IG-18 moving forwards. That is a good idea, but he needs to have something that can cover him from this M4A1. Great thing about the IG-18 is it will basically kill an M5 gun if it can get into range. I think it does still have the range here, doesn't it? Yeah, 1,000 meters. So if the M5 gun reveals itself on the edge of the tree line, the IG-18 should be able to do the job with the help of the Fallschirmjäger because it will be spotting it. Okay, Fallschirmjägers here, they've got into the ideal range where they can use the MG34, G43s and FG42s, and those Ranger supports aren't long for this world. Pioneers just going to be holding strong there. Shouldn't really be probing too much, but do manage to find the last man of that Ranger's assault squad. Stier 42 has been allowed to push up with the assistance of this Marder 2, and I really like this combination actually. Moving into phase B here, Tarsh bringing in that Marder 2 to accompany his Stier is really, really nice. However, M4A1 with the rifles now starting to clean up some of these ersatz, and Tarsh's lead is going to fall away from him as YueJin picks up the territory once again. So rifle leader here, they're going to be engaging with these Fallschirmjägers. Fallschirmjägers, yes, they do a lot of damage at that range, but with multiple squads shooting down on them, it's not going to be ideal, especially when the rifles are in cover and the Fallschirmjägers are not. So yeah, you can see those Fallschirmjägers going to lose out there. These Ersatztruppen going to get hit hard in the face of the M10. Pioneers are actually being pushed back as well since they aren't engaging at their ideal range. And yeah, things just really falling apart for Tarsh at the moment in the mid. Marder 2 though, can it get some work done? It is going to be helping pin down some of this infantry and allow Tarsh to take back these tree lines. But with the M10 arriving, it's really up to Tarsh to identify that he can fire on the M10. Allowing the M10 to fire first is a really bad idea, and that is just, I don't know, he must have just not realised that his Marder was going to come under fire. Honestly, like, yeah, if the Marder had fired first, he might have been able to A, get a kill, or B, just do some of the morale damage that would definitely help him out. I'm surprised about this Pack 40 placement. Personally, I would have liked to have seen it come up onto this hill. It's a really good place for an AT gun up here, especially when you're being pushed in so aggressively. AA has arrived on the side of Tarsh. Looks like he's going to try and make some plays with his Air Force. So that's actually quite a good choice. He's going to struggle to kill off these M4s. So relying on like HS129s might be the way to go. Because these Marder 2s just don't have the veterancy to reliably kill tanks at range. M10 does manage to make the Marder 2 fall back on the top side there. But we can see this M4A1 making short work of an IG-18. And with the assistance of the rifles, we'll be able to begin to clean up even more units. So we now see a xylophone. That's actually going to be going for this Fallschirmjäger. Interesting choice. Looks like YueJin tried to stop that strike halfway through so that he could fire some rockets elsewhere. He's going to be firing the rest of the salvo, which is only another 3 rockets, but might be able to get some work done. But with the assistance of 2 pioneers, well, rifles aren't going to last long. Grenade was thrown. These rifles might be dead? No, they're not. That grenade must have been thrown at something else. Those pioneers aren't going to be surrendered, but they might get killed off at close range. So IG-18 coming into play down here. It looks like the M5 gun was cleaned up. But alongside this Marder 2, that is going to allow the Grenadiers and any other infantry that arrives to push forwards and maybe take these buildings off YueJin, which would be very nice indeed. Ersatz dying there, and it looks like most of the Ersatz that Tarsh had, other than this single man, have died. ME-109, G2, BR-21 has found shots onto the xylophone, and that's a very dead xylophone. Nice kill there by Tarsh. He can also come in with another airstrike onto this M2A1 howitzer, since that's also sitting out in the open. Pretty lazy deployment there from YueJin. I really wants to get it behind a tree line again, just so it isn't spotted by recon, and those airstrikes cannot happen. The amount of times I see that happening is a bit ridiculous, and all it takes is just to be behind a tree line, because then the recon doesn't spot you, or any other units don't spot you. Yes, you can sort of fire position one of those ME-109s, but in that case, I think it was just able to be seen, and that just invites people to purchase aircraft to take them out. So Fallschirm Speertroop going to be helping pin down the rifle leader with the IG-18. Once they are pinned, it looks like the Grenadiers will be able to capitalize on the surrender, unless YueJin gets them to fall back ASAP. One thing I have noticed actually is Tarsh not trying to take advantage of surrenders in this situation. It seems like he'd prefer to just do as much damage as possible than run down the squad and get the surrender. And in some ways that can be good, especially if you're threatened by other units. But in most cases, just getting the surrender quickly enables you to then focus on other units. In that case, it didn't really matter. IG-18 really efficient at killing off those infantry squads. So Pack 40 on the top side, that is going to be hit by this M2A1 howitzer.
Germans ahead.
It must have fired previously, because currently YueJin cannot see that and does not have any recon on this top side. There's actually no recon on the bottom side either, but YueJin going to be rectifying that shortly with these M3 scouts arriving. So rifles now taking on Speertroop at range. This 107mm mortar has work to do. IG-18 was taken out though. Looks like that was killed off as it advanced forwards. Marder 2 going to be popping the M3 scout car and dropping off these scouts in the open. The scouts did not die, so the recon's still available there. M5 gun going to be picking off the Pack 36, allowing YueJin to be a lot more confident with the use of his M4A1. ME-109 going to be coming in, picking off the Duck I actually like that kill a lot. Stops his artillery from sort of reloading there. Not a fan of this engagement though. Gabby is very, very efficient at shooting down aircraft, just saved by the Flak 36. I think maybe Tarsh there was going to go for a bait over his Flak 36s, but didn't quite time it right, and nearly lost his ME-109 in the process. But that's still alive, so good job by Tarsh. Tarsh does lose his Fortune Speed Troop down here. Rifles run them down. Without the IG-18, it's actually going to be hard to stop any more infantry coming through here. And it looks like these rifles may find these grenadiers soon, and with the accompaniment of new rifles, should be able to make a push. You can see the M2A1 howitzer. That's going to be used to pin down these Fallschirmjägers. Another rifle squad going to be trying to take advantage of that. And it looks like YueJin's game plan here is really to rely on these artillery pieces to win these infantry engagements for him. And where that doesn't work, he's then going to use the M4s and his tanks for fire support. And that's a very solid strategy with the 2nd Infantry. It's just relatively slow. Every time you see an artillery game, you know the game's going to be slow, and in this case it most certainly has been. 380mm off map has been brought in by Tarsh, and that is placed relatively nicely. If he'd been keeping an eye on where this M2A1 howitzer was shooting from, I think I would have liked him to just target that specifically, as removing the artillery definitely hinders the game plan of YueJin throughout the game. And if he knows the 2nd Infantry, he should realise that. But wow, the first shot going to hit the mortar. That was pretty nice. It looks like emergency barrage, so it was rather spaced out. But this M2A1 going to be able to fall back out of the radius of the artillery relatively quickly. So I don't think that's going to go down. It does take another hit, goes down to 3 health. Maybe that'll be something for an ME-109 to kill later on. But with Gabby in the air, going to make things quite difficult. Pioneers are going to be taken out in this forest, and honestly Tarsh is going to have to reinforce this mid-area soon, otherwise he's going to lose control of it. But he doesn't want to ever overinvest into the centre, because it's not really a way in which you make ground in this map. Pushing down this tree line is just absolute suicide for the most part. Stiff 42 is engaging the M10 at close range. I'm not convinced that's the right choice, especially without the support of the Marder 2s. It looks like maybe that was on an attack move and YueJin took advantage of it. An M10 should easily win that engagement. Yes, the Stiff 42 has a potential to get the kill there, but it's going to take a long time. Or just a lot of luck. Fallschirmjägers getting pinned down in the open is not good for Tarsh. You never want to see Fallschirmjägers dying like this. 45-point squads, you can't afford that kind of loss. You need to get those out of there before the M4A1 starts firing. Fallschirmjägers here though, they're in a much better position. Look at that. Perfect range to just obliterate those rifles. And I kind of like this arty, but again, I think I would wait until you could see the M2A1 howitzer and then try and take advantage of that. Of course, the deployment of that artillery is limited by the circle. But, I don't know, we'll have to wait and see if that actually maybe kills off the M3 Command or the M3 Scout. That would be the ideal targets for that artillery. Because it's not going to hit this infantry very well. Although it might pin them down if a shot lands close enough. Bit of a whiff there on the arty though. I think it's always better to wait with these off maps until you can see what you're firing at, or see what you want to kill. You could even use this 380mm off map to take out the M10, honestly, on this top side here. So that would be a much better target. What we can see though is that the Marder 2s have been taken out. One of them's dead, the other one has an internal fragment, so that's going to allow YueJin to be very successful with his M10s up here now. +1 still sitting in favour of YueJin. He's going to win the game in 13 minutes and 55 seconds. Now Gabby does get forced back with the engagement against the ME-109 due to, of course, AA once again. Tarsh has invested in this Russian artillery piece. 23 HE. Going to be trying to take out this M5 gun. Definitely pins down things very quickly indeed. However, like I mentioned before, infantry in the centre here needs to be a priority. Yes, that artillery is on point now, but you've got to sort of cater for the fact that the infantry is going to keep pushing. So, well, as much as I like this RT right now, I'm not sure it's going to quite catch this rifle, for example, which will then allow him to push onto the mortar, and that will lose him his mortar. We'll have to wait and see. It might still pin them down. Definitely killed off the command, and that's a good start. Because now if the other rifles do get pinned down, well, Pioneers can just go and make them surrender. There we go. Job done. So Panzer 35s are going to be trying to clean up some of the rifles on the bottom side here. If this artillery piece can take out the M5 gun, then these Panzer 35s can actually get quite aggressive down here due to the M4 being a little bit further up. But that M4 is in line of sight of the Pak 40 here. Can Tarsh make that happen? If he can get the kill with the Pak 40 onto the M4A1, that's going to allow a lot of this infantry to get aggressive again and push on to these rifles. It's bailed out. Nice job. Now Tarsh is going to be careful he doesn't fall into his own off-map here. That was put on barrage, so it fires very slowly but quite accurately. And honestly, it can catch you out. But in this case, it's going to be finishing off the last rifles. Pak 40 does get hit by the mortar and the M2A1 howitzer. That's going to go down very quickly. Wow. However, the M5 gun's still alive down here. That means these Panzer 35s can't be very aggressive. Big loss there on the Pak 40. But Pak 40 bailing out the M4A1's nice, but it's interesting how that's now moving. Especially when it's supposed to be bailed out. The track wheel damage bug's still there. Oh, nice direct hit from this RT. Finds the counter battery. Great stuff. However, I'm actually quite surprised that with YueJin taking out one of the martyrs and internal fragmenting the other ones, that he hasn't been more aggressive up here with these M10s. He is kind of going to fall into the trap of this Pak 40, but that Pak 40 doesn't have any command with it, so it's not going to be super accurate. Tarsh has also invested in an 88, but with the artillery that YueJin's using in these two M2A1 howitzers, he should be able to deal with an 88 quite easily. M3 gun. Looks like it's trying to push down to this bottom side. If it can find shots onto this Panzer 35, it will get the job done. But across the board, I think just Tarsh's infantry is going to find it hard to hold. Especially with a new M4DD arriving on this bottom side. That counters these Panzer 35s. It also, you know, helps clean up infantry at a distance. So we're looking at maybe a +2 before the end of this game. Currently 55% territory lead in favour of YueJin. Pak 40 is going to show itself by firing its HE at the rifles, and that is a big mistake there by Tarsh. He really needed to have that HE turned off, because you can see as soon as it revealed itself, it got killed by the M2A1 howitzers. Wow. Yeah. That is a misplay, for sure. You never want your Pak 40 to reveal itself like that, especially when your priority targets are the M10s. So, just a little tip there, turn off your HE. If you want to target specifically armor, that is. So Foshimega is managing to keep these rifles at bay. These ones have been doing really well in this tree line area. But with the M4 now helping out, it's going to make things difficult. And the 35s pushing aggressively down here. Not entirely sure how long that's going to last though, especially with an M4DD on the field. We do see two 2-star Flak 88s. This Flak 88 on the top side, it might be able to do some work, but it really has to like one-shot an M10. And it also needs to not be spotted. And I think it honestly will be very shortly, if it hasn't already, because when it's firing at these aircraft, it's giving itself away. ME-109 GTBR-21 comes in with the rockets onto the CGMC. CGMC backs up through the flames, does not get itself killed. Pins down the AA for now. It looks like Tarsh is trying to make room for like HS-129s. I'm surprised we haven't seen one come out so far, actually. Especially just to clean up things like this M4A1 and the M4DD. This M4A1 that was bailed out, actually, did get fixed up by the duck. So, YueJin's managed to recover that after the Pak-40 died trying to kill it. Oh, 88. Oh, almost got a second shot onto the M4DD down here. But with that, again, revealing itself, it's only a matter of time until YueJin starts targeting those with the artillery, and you can see that that's exactly what this M2A1 howitzer wants to do with the 88 on the top side. But looks like Tarsh is going to try the counter battery. And if he can get a direct hit or two on target, that is going to take out the M2A1 howitzer. ME-109 comes in with the rocket strike onto the M4A1. Not entirely convinced that's the right choice. M5 gun starting to hammer these Panzer 35s. Yeah, only a matter of time until this second one dies. Just really doesn't have the armor to stand up against this M5 gun. There we go, transmission damage. Next shot should do the job. Unless it changes target. Nope, there we go. So, yes, this Marder 2 is a quite nice choice for dealing with M4s because he can outrange them. But when there's an M5 gun concern involved, this artillery really needs to kill that before he engages with the Marder 2. YueJin, on the ball today, manages to pick off that Marder 2 before Tarsh realizes. Really, really good job. So with only 6 minutes and 45 seconds remaining, this has been a relatively close match through Phase A and B. But now we've moved into Phase C. It looks like Tarsh is really struggling for the resources to take care of all of these tanks, supported by the infantry and the artillery. The ways that he could have done it is maybe invested in these artillery early, or earlier, in order to counter the howitzers. Or he could maybe focus more on airstrikes and HS-129s. Because HS-129s can, of course, kill off these CGMCs before the CGMCs stun them. So you do have a chance to get those kills, and if you go like 2v1, then generally that does happen. And then with the CGMCs out of the equation, you can then focus on the M4s. And if you support yourself with AA, like these Flak 88s, then you're quite safe to take air engagements as well, especially against like Gabi, for example. The only issue with sort of going into this game and the mentality is that the 2nd Infantry can put up quite a decent air force, so it wouldn't be your first thought going into the game. And we can see that Marder has died on the top side. M2A1 howitzer is going to be now hitting the 88, allowing those tanks to advance. And on this bottom side, this Russian artillery piece did use its AT actually to pop an M4. We saw the ME-109 there come in, took out the M5 gun, but under a lot of fire. Will it go down? Not quite. Not quite. Gabi has arrived with a P-38 Lightning. Tarsh needs to get the hell out of Dodge, because his Flak 36s are dead, and the Flak 88 on the top side is gone. Not entirely convinced about this micro from YueJin here. Wow. Nearly let his Gabi get shot down there. Oh, that's 88 in a tough spot right now. ME-109 G6R6 not going to get the kill. Wow. That Lightning is lucky today. Holy moly. He's going to go home with a few bullet holes in him. Wow. Okay, so +2, finally in favour of YueJin. You can see Tarsh's defence is just falling apart here now. Without the AA, it's really difficult for Tarsh to maintain any ground using Air Force. So, yeah, it looks like YueJin's just taking control of every aspect of the game. He's got air supremacy, he's got obviously armour supremacy, he's got the infantry that he needs to keep pushing forwards. Although honestly there is a real lack of infantry across the board. But maybe he's got low on availability and he's just using his tanks now in the open with the remainder of what he has left. You can, of course, just use, for example, scouts with M4s to make ground. That works. As long as there's some men on the ground to reveal his targets. Yeah, nothing really Tarsh can do about it at this point. Maybe bring in more Pack 40s, maybe bring in RT to kill off enemy RT, but it just takes too long, and it looks like YueJin has managed to seal the deal towards the beginning of Phase C, just sort of overwhelming Tarsh. And although Tarsh has a lot of infantry left, as soon as it gets spotted, it's just going to get absolutely wrecked, especially without the support of any significant AT. There is these Marder 2s, but they've just been outmatched pretty much the entire game. And honestly, it's actually quite difficult to use Marder 2s on this map, because the M4s will often be able to fire back due to the range. So there's that as well. Now this RT piece did manage to get off a couple more AT shots, but now going to be forced back. Marder 2 is getting involved at the longer range here. Does manage to find an internal fragment. That's really nice, actually. New off-map has arrived on the side of Tarsh. Maybe he can make some ground back with that, but that off-map really needs to hit the M10s. Now, an M10 has died up here, but taking out the second one would be pretty much the only way for Tarsh to make back ground at this point. Gabby, is he going to let that ME-109 get away? No, he is not. Now the CGMC is going to hold back that ME-109 from finishing off Gabby. Fallschirmjäger, again, being pinned down by the M10. M3 Scouts just getting in close. It ran out of 50 cal ammunition. I think YueJin had it on an attack move order, so it just suicided. Oh, here we go. HS-129 pops the M10. Nice job indeed. P-38 Lightning, however, has something to say about that. Is going to come in. Will likely actually shoot it down, because the ME-109 G6 is not going to be able to stop that in time. Yeah, HS-129 goes down. Like, it's all very well using HS-129s while you still have air supremacy, but when you don't anymore and you don't have the AA, it just doesn't work. Like, yeah, he took out the M10, and that might allow him to use some infantry now to kill off YueJin's infantry and push him back, but again, not going to be quick enough at this moment in time. He can continue with his RT all he wants, but it's not really hitting the mark. I would just very much want to get some RT on top of this hill where you know that M2A1's been firing from for the majority of the game. Because these M2A1s have really done a lot of damage onto his AT guns and other units throughout the game. And the use of artillery from YueJin has been really, really good to kill off the units he specifically needs to in order to continue to push through with the other units. So yeah, really, really great job. It took a while because he relied on the artillery strategy, but in general, that's absolutely fine as long as it gets the job done right. And it looks like he definitely has done towards the end of the game here. Ends the game with 66% territory lead. Very nice. Major victory. After the full 40 minutes, YueJin going to be taking game 1 of this best of 3 final against Tarsh. 3,510 kills to 2,910 losses. Infantry divisions versus each other. I really like the way that that Tarsh made some plays in this game, but YueJin just on point, managed to use those artillery to his advantage, and Tarsh just didn't counter it strong enough. When he brought in that off-map, I really hoped that he would target the M2A1 howitzer with it. That would have been really, really nice. Because taking out those definitely allows him to play around with Pack 40s a lot more. Especially considering he did have the AA in place to stop airstrikes. So there's going to be really no way for YueJin to reliably kill a Pack 40 if artillery and aircraft are taken out of the equation. So the investment in the Russian artillery was fantastic, but he needed like a second one to really get the job done and make sure that he focused on counter battery more than anything else. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Let's have a look at some of these kills. T-30s early on were actually really useful by the looks of things, but didn't really pay themselves off that well. The trouble is, a lot of this infantry that Tarsh is putting out in Phase A is very cost efficient. It's like 10 points a pop, so none of the units that YueJin really can bring in can pay themselves off very easily without sort of lasting for the majority of the game. M5 gun though, on this bottom side, found that Tarsh 42 and Panzer III push, or kill, and that really stopped the push out of Tarsh on that bottom side. This M4A1 though, this one was the one that got bailed, then got fixed up and pushed back towards Tarsh. Managed to get a lot of kills in there, wow. But then we see these M2 howitzers, there you go. 107mm mortar also getting involved. 3 Pak 40 kills. And if Tarsh had focused on counter battery, those Pak 40s would still be alive and definitely preventing the M10s and the M4s from making ground. So that was extremely important, and that was the main reason that Tarsh sort of fell apart there in towards the late game. Because the rest of his units really don't match up well. Like I said previously, the Marder 2s don't. And the M10s can take advantage of that, especially the 3-star M10s that YueJin can get in Phase C with the 2nd Infantry. So Tarsh 42 going down to M10, Marder 2 there. The 88 on the top side eventually got taken out by the M10. M5 guns on the side of YueJin actually managed to pick up quite a nice amount of kills. Gabby took down the ME109 in the end, and the M4DD took out the stuff on the bottom side. In terms of losses, IG-18 early on actually did really well. The Fortune-Führer Oleg finished off some of those Ranger Marauders. The infantry engagement actually from Tarsh against YueJin's infantry was really nice. I like the use of the ersatz at close range. I think Tarsh definitely knew how to deal with the Ranger assaults early on, and we saw that demonstrated. And just threw loads of ersatz in their face, wasted their napalm, and then cleaned them up with the Forschungspanzer Abwehr, which was really nice. Pioneers there took out multiple units. We got the ME109 G2 BL21 taking out that xylophone that was caught out in the open. Railroad battery didn't really do a great job. That's a very expensive artillery piece, and when it's only killing infantry like this, it's not great. You really want to just focus on that, like a counter battery and so on with that. This RT piece did manage to take out an M2A1 howitzer and the 107mm mortar in the end, but it just wasn't enough. Like I said, just have one more of those, and then you solve all your problems. And that's all that was needed. And that's all for now. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed game 1 of this best of 3 between YueJin and Tarsh. YueJin goes 1 up. Let's see if Tarsh can bring it back in game 2. But that's all for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.